Hi guys, and welcome to my review of, let me focus this, of the MT1 Pro, TRN MT1 Pro. Okay, this is the successor and, well, supposed upgrade to the TRN MT1. The TRN MT1, which is this over here, was launched last year, and it was an IM that was quite well received because an interesting sound. The MT1, as well as the EDX from KZ, were two IEMs, two ultra cheap IEMs that were launched last year that came in to a certain extent. I wouldn't say revolutionize. That's a very strong word, but they came and bring some interest to the more budget stuff, in the sense that they brought a nice sound at a ultra budget price, and with very little in terms of mods they could be made to sound actually quite good. And I've done several videos on modding MT1, modding the ADX, so it's just a question of you going and looking at my videos and you'll find them. But anyway, today's topic is the MT1 Pro. It has a reminiscence to the EDX Pro as well. The shell, the overall appearance, is very similar, which kind of almost begs the question: are they made by the same people? Anyway, fit is fine, no issues. It's a plastic, excuse me, it's a plastic shell, 10mm driver, no fancy diaphragms, no nothing. Yeah, that's it. Basic cable, basic packaging. It's an ultra budget IM. I mean, we're talking about $12, so this falls into the price of the EDX Pro, falls into the price of the CCA CRA, EDS as well, the KZ EDS. And well, here we go. Let me start by actually showing you the graph of the original MT1. Okay, I've used the same bore across the board, which is, I'm going to just show you, which is this. Oops, sorry about that. I've used this tip across the board, which is a medium-sized wide bore. Okay, this is the tip that I've used for all of this, for all of these measurements. Okay, so this is the EDX, the MT1. The first generation, okay, and the first generation can be identified by a written mistake on the actual shell, which is 10mm DUMIC. They later then corrected that, and then it became 10mm dynamic, which is what should have been written there from the beginning. But anyway, that's not important. But that's how you can identify the first generation and second generation MT1s. And well, yeah, I think the graph speaks very much for itself. It had, it didn't have monster amounts of bass. It had a nice bass which matched quite nicely with the mid-range. Vocals were fine. There was a little bit of sibilance. Obviously, technicalities wasn't. I mean, we're talking $8 for the MT1, so technicalities is not something that we can be expecting a lot from. But Soundstage was fine, imaging was fine, detail retrieval was fine. I mean, always keeping in mind the price. It had reasonable extension up top as well. And look, for the price, it was a good IEM to listen to music, for gaming. It was nice as compared to the EDX. The EX was more bass heavy. Some preferred that. Others, well, like myself, I also preferred the MT1. Although, truth be told, once modified, my heart turns back to the EDX, the KZ EDX modified. Anyway, this was the first generation of the MT1. It was then followed by this one, which is, as you can see, basically the same thing, which is just the ones that now had the correct spelling, the dynamic. And yeah, again, we just carried on with the same basic equation that we had from before. MT1 Pro. Here we go. Yes, exactly, this graph. So this is the MT1 Pro. Let me just change the color. I'll just remove one of the others so it doesn't get in the way. So there we go. MT1 Pro is now the blue line, okay, and the MT1 is the red line. And as you can see, basically what has changed is more energy has been given to this whole upper mids area and presence area. And what this translates to in terms of sound is that there's more forwardness in the vocals. There's an increased amount of brightness, which yes does improve slightly the detailed retrieval and you know, the overall sensation of space and so on. Soundstage also gets a little bit of an improvement, but ultimately and although both the MT1 or the MT1 Pro don't require a lot of power, they will work fine just connected to the phone. When you do power them, obviously you do get the improvements that come with that. And there is where you then start noticing that the new MT1 Pro is just too much. It's just I mean, it's not the bleeding of the bass which is a problem. It's not you know, it's just that with that increased ability to play loudness, it just makes everything become very on edge, and it can become borderline harsh and borderline aggressive and become quite fatiguing. So although the basic formula from the original MT1 was maintained, the new one honestly, it just makes things a little bit not the ideal. So that in a nutshell is the MT1 Pro, my friends. You know, it's a nice enough IEM, I suppose for those that will enjoy it. I would have liked the Pro moniker to have meant a different sort of tuning, and I will show what I've done to this particular MT1 now in a second, and you will see. If they had done this, I think that the the name Pro would have applied better, and not only apply better, but you know, the sound signature of the MT1 was a sound signature that was fine for late 2020, early 2021, and throughout 2021. But there's been a lot of improvements, and for you to now basically get a sound signature which is now 2 years old, and you just get a different faceplate and you put a Pro on there, and you think that, okay, wow, this is going to be the last cookie in the cookie jar. It's, I think, a little bit you know, it's you are underestimating how more demanding the general public is becoming. Anyway, let me just show you here then what I meant by what I could do, or what I have done. You guys know that I've done several videos on the MT1 modified and so on and so forth, and I'll show you just two graphs of two very simple mods. One is this, okay, and what is this? This is basically an MT1 with a tension filter. So you go from this to the graph to the blue line. Yes, you do have an extra amount of bass, but you lose all that aggressiveness there, and it just becomes a way nicer IEM to listen to the MT1 once it's modified. And I recently also did another mod on the MT1, which I made a video on it, which is this one here, which I further improved in the mid bass and low mids area by reducing this bump. Okay, so this becomes almost neutral. There's no bleeding. It just, very nice. It does peak a little higher there, but overall this latest version, tuned version of the MT1 is very nice. I mean, it's seriously very nice in terms of its sound. And just for you to have it, a comparison of what it is like, I'll show it to you next to the Duno Titan S. This is a Duno Titan S. Okay, fair enough. The graph here at 8K peak, is always a little bit difficult because of the tips and so on and so forth. But as you can see, Duno Titan S and my version of the MT1, they graph very similarly. And the truth is, when you listen they sound very similar, and we're talking about an $8 IEM versus a $70 IEM. I'm not saying that the Duno is not better. Yes, the Duno is ultimately better. Of course it is. It's got a better quality driver, so on and so forth. But the mod that I proposed for the MT1, although it does require some skill from the part of who will be performing it, it's not an impossible mod to do, and it makes it, well, you can see what it is. It's here. So I decided, let me see what I can do with the MT1 Pro, and that's exactly what I did. So I went and, okay, let me just put the standard graph first. Okay, that's the standard MT1 Pro as compared to the latest version of my modified MT1. Bigger mid-bass bump, all these peaks and so on, and not just fatiguing overall for extended periods of listening. So I took that and I applied just the tangent filter like I initially did to the MT1. Okay, and that's this graph here. Okay, and basically what we end up with, okay, is that bump in the mid bass, and but overall, look, let me put it to you this way. This is, where is it here? Exactly. And let me remove the red one. Okay, the blue line is the MT1 just with a tangent filter, and the green line, okay, if you can basically just, I'll just remove the blue line. Okay, that's the green line, that's the MT1 Pro. Blue one is the MT1, and they basically are the same. The only difference that really exists is up top here, and when you do listen, yes, you do feel that the MT1 Pro has got just a little bit extra sparkle up top. Okay, and that little extra sparkle up top, it just makes the sound nicer, period. Okay, so yeah guys, that's basically it. I mean, you want to get an MT1 Pro, fine, go ahead, get it. My rec is get some tangent filters from the Tanya and put a tangent filter on it, and you will love it. This is what you get. It becomes a very, very easy to listen to IEM, great for gaming, good with general music. Yes, it's got this little bit of a mid bass bump here, like you can see. But honestly, this that you see here is a much nicer IEM. Vocals are no longer forward and too shouty as they can be at times. And well, just as another basis of comparison, I'll just show you. This is the graph of the melee. There we go. So the MT1 Pro modified with a tangent Tanya filter very much graphically simulates a Tripoan melee. The biggest differences graphically are that it's got more extension up top, and when you do listen, yes, the Tripoan melee has got better quality bass, but it doesn't have the extension that the MT1 has. Yes, the Tripoan melee does have better resolution, better overall technicalities. Of course, it's a $50 IEM compared to, again, like I said, a $12, $14 for the MT1 Pro. But the truth is, the MT1 Pro, okay, with the tangent filter, will graph very similar to a Tripoan melee, and will sound, I would say, 70%, 70 to 75% of a Tripoan melee, which is a huge improvement over the standard MT1 Pro, as you can see here. And in my opinion, with no disrespect intended to TRN or to its engineers, this is what I would have liked to have seen in terms of tuning for the MT1 Pro. This would have shown that they actually did spend a little bit more time, listened to the market, and try to give the market what it truly is asking and is deserving of getting, which is a more polished tuning. And that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this little take of mine. Like I said, it's not a dramatic improvement over the original MT1, but if you don't have the MT1 and you want to try a little bit of this budget segment from TRN, definitely get yourself an MT1 Pro, but don't forget tension, tiny filter on it, otherwise it's gonna kill you. All right, anyway guys, thank you. As always, if you like what you see, please subscribe. Please let me know in the comments what else you would like me to show you. And yeah, we'll keep in touch. Take care and keep safe. Take care. Bye bye.